Hello, my name is Deanne. Gather round, adventure seekers, for an enchanting exploration of the Dungeons & Dragons 2024 Player's Handbook, a treasure chest brimming with the mechanics of the greatest role-playing game. Follow my voice as I unfurl possibilities so that you can breathe life into your tabletop game. Mesmerize your friends or enchant your players. Continuing on, Part 5, page 27. Page 27. Falling off. If an effect is about to move your mount against its will while you're on it, you must succeed on a DC 10 dexterity saving throw or fall off, landing with the prone condition. See the rules glossary. In an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the mount. While mounted, you must take the same save if you're knocked prone or the mount is. Underwater combat. A fight underwater follows these rules. Impeded weapons. When making a melee attack roll with a weapon underwater, a creature that lacks a swim speed has disadvantage on the attack roll unless the weapon deals piercing damage. A ranged attack roll with a weapon underwater automatically misses a target beyond the weapon's normal range, and the attack roll has disadvantage against a target within normal range. Fire resistant. Anything underwater has resistance to fire damage, explained in Damage and Healing. Damage and Healing. Injury and death are frequent threats in D&D, as detailed in the following rules. Hit points. Hit points represent durability and the will to live. Creatures with more hit points and are more difficult to kill. Let me read that. Creatures with more hit points are more difficult to kill. Your hit point maximum is the number of hit points you have when injured. Your current hit points can be any number from the maximum down to 0, which is the lowest hit points you can go. Whenever you take damage, subtract it from your hit points. Hit point loss has no effect to your capabilities until you reach 0 hit points. If you have half your hit points or fewer, you're bloodied, which has no game effect on its own, but which might trigger other game effects. Damage rolls. Each weapon, spell, and damaging monster ability specifies the damage it deals. You roll the damage die, add any modifiers, and deal the damage to your target. If there's a penalty to the damage, it's possible to deal 0 damage, but not negative damage. When attacking with a weapon, add your ability modifier, the same modifier used for the attack roll, to the damaged roll. A spell tells you which die to roll for the damage and whether to add any modifiers. Unless a rule says otherwise, you don't add your ability modifier to a fixed damage amount that doesn't use a roll, such as a damage of a blowgun. See Chapter 6 for weapons, damage dice, and Chapter 7 for spell damage dice. Critical hits. When you score a critical hit, you deal extra damage. Roll the attack's damage dice twice. Add them together and add any relevant modifiers as normal. For example, if you score a critical hit, which is we're going to the next page. Dagger, roll 2d4 for the damage rather than a 1d4 and add your relevant ability modifier. If the attack involves other damage dice, such as from the rogue sneak attack feature, you also add those dice twice. I do max, and then you roll the extra. Because sometimes you can roll really low, and it feels a little disheartening when you get a critical and you don't hit very hard. But I'm going back to the box text here. It says resting. Adventurers can't speed every hour adventuring. They need rest. Any creature can take hour-long short rests in the midst of a day and an 8-hour-long rest at the end of it. Regaining hit points is one of the main benefits of a rest. The rules glossary provides rules for short rests and long rests. Saving throws and damage. Damage dealt via saving throws uses these rules. Damage against multiple targets. When you create a damaging effect that forces 2 or more targets to make saving throws against it at the same time, roll the damage once for all the targets. For example, when a wizard casts Fireball, the spell's damage is rolled once for all the creatures caught in the blast. Half damage. Mini saving throw effects deal half damage, round down, to a target when the target succeeds on the saving throw. The half damage is equal to half the damage that would be dealt on a failed save. Damage types. Each instance of damage has a type, like fire or slashing. Damage types are listed in the rules glossary, and you have no rules of your own, and have no rules of their own, but other rules. Okay, that was bad. Such as resistance and rely on damage types. So the damage types are listed in the rules glossary and have no rules of their own, but other rules such as resistance rely on the damage types. Resistance and vulnerability. Some creatures and objects have resistance or vulnerability to certain types of damage types. If you have resistance to a damage type, damage of that type is halved against you, round down. If you have vulnerability to a damage type, damage of that type is doubled against you. For example, if you have resistance to cold damage, such damage is halved against you. And if you have vulnerability to fire damage, such damage is doubled against you. No stacking. Multiple instances of resistance or vulnerability that affect the same damage type count as only one instance. For example, if you have resistance to necrotic damage as well as resistance to all damage, necrotic damage is reduced by half against you. Order of application. Modifiers to damage are applied in the following order. Adjustments, such as bonuses, penalties, or multipliers, are applied first. Resistance is applied second, and vulnerability is applied third. For example, a creature has resistance to all damage and vulnerability to fire damage, and it's within a magical aura that reduces all damage by 5. If it takes 28 fire damage, the damage is first reduced by 5 to 23, then halved by the creature's resistance and rounded down to 11, then doubled for its vulnerability to 22. Immunity. Some creatures and objects have immunity to certain damage types and conditions. Immunity to damage type means you don't take damage of that type, and immunity to a condition means you aren't affected by it at all whatsoever. Healing. Hit points can be restored by magic, such as the Cure Wounds spell or potion of healing, or by a short rest or long rest. See Rules Glossary. When you receive healing, add the restored hit points to your current hit points. Your hit points can't exceed your hit point maximum, so any hit points gained can't exceed the hit point maximum, so any hit points gained in excess of that maximum are lost. For example, if you receive 8 hit points of healing and you have 14 hit points and a hit point maximum of 20, you regain 6 hit points, not 8. Dropping to 0 hit points. When a creature drops to 0 hit points, it either dies outright or falls unconscious, as explained below. Instant death. Here are the main ways a creature can die instantly. Monster death. A monster dies the instant it drops to 0 hit points, although a dungeon master can ignore this rule for an individual monster and treat it as a character. Hit point maximum of 0. A creature dies if its hit points maximum reaches 0. Certain effects drain life energy, reducing a creature's hit points maximum. Mass damage. When damage reduces a creature to 0 hit points and damage remains, the character dies if the remainder equals or exceeds their hit point maximum. For example, if your character has a hit point maximum of 12, currently has 6 hit points and takes 18 damage, the character drops to 0 hit points because 12 damage remains. The character dies since 12 equals their hit point maximum. Character demise. Oh no. If your character dies, others might find a magical way to revive your character, such as with a raise dead spell. Or talk to the DM about making a new character for the group. The rules glossary has more information on being dead. What a topic, huh? Falling unconscious. If you reach 0 hit points and don't die instantly, you have the unconscious condition. See the rules glossary. Until you regain any hit points and you now face making death saving throws, see below. Death saving throws. Whenever you start your turn with 0 hit points, you must make a death saving throw to determine whether you creep closer to death or clinging on to life. Mama said knock you out. Wait, that's not what it says. It says knocking out a creature. When you would reduce a creature to 0 hit points with a melee attack, you can instead reduce the creature to 1 hit point and give it the unconscious condition. It then starts a short rest, at the end of which that condition ends on it. The condition ends early if a creature regains any hit points, or if someone takes the action to administer first aid to it, making a successful DC 10 Wisdom Medicine check. Unlike other saving throws, this one isn't tied to an ability score. You're in the hands of fate now. 3 success failures. Roll 1 d20. If the roll is 10 or higher, you succeed. Otherwise, you fail. A success or failure has no effect by itself. On your 3rd success, you become stable. See stabilized in character below. On your 3rd failure, you die. Sorry. The successes and failures don't need to be consecutive. Keep track of both, and you collect 3 of a kind. The number of both is reset to 0 when you regain any hit points or become stable. Rolling a 1 or 20. When you roll a 1 on the d20 for a death save, you suffer 2 failures. Sorry. If you roll a 20 on the d20, you regain 1 hit point. Yay! Damage at 0 hit points. If you take any damage while you have 0 hit points, you suffer a death saving throw failure. If the damage is from a critical hit, you suffer 2 failures instead. If the damage equals or exceeds your hit point maximum, you die. Sucks to be you. Stabilizing a character. You can make the help action to try to stabilize a creature with 0 hit points, which requires a successful DC 10 Wisdom Medicine check. A stable creature doesn't make death saving throws, even though it has 0 hit points, but it still has the unconscious condition. If the creature takes damage, it stops being stable and starts making death saving throws again. The stable creature that isn't healed regains 1 hit point after 1d4 hours. Oh, cool. Temporary hit points. Some spells and other effects confer temporary hit points, which are a buffer against losing actual hit points, as explained below. Lose temporary hit points first. If you have temporary hit points and take damage, those points are lost first, and any leftover damage carries over to your hit points. For example, if you have 5 temporary hit points and take 7 damage, you lose those points, and then you lose 2 hit points. Duration. Temporary hit points last until they are depleted or you finish a long rest. See Rules Glossary. They don't stack. Temporary hit points can't be added together. If you have temporary hit points and receive more of them, you decide whether you keep the ones you have or gain the new ones. For example, if a spell grants you 12 temporary hit points, when you already have 10, you can have 12 or 10, not 22. They're not hit points or healing. Temporary hit points can't be added to your hit points. Healing can't restore them, and receiving temporary hit points doesn't count as healing because temporary hit points aren't hit points. A creature can be at full hit points and receive temporary hit points. If you have 0 hit points receiving temporary hit points, it doesn't restore you to consciousness. Only true healing can save you. Conditions. Many effects impose a condition, a temporary state that alters the recipient's capabilities. The following conditions are defined in the Rules Glossary: blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, grappled, incapacitated, invisible, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained, stunned, unconscious. The definition of a condition specifies what happens to its recipient while affected by it, and some conditions apply other conditions. Duration. A duration lasts either for the duration specified by the effect and imposed the condition or until the condition is countered. The prone condition is countered by standing up, for example. No stacking. If multiple effects impose the same condition on you, each instant of the condition has its own duration, but the condition's effects don't get worse. Either you have a condition or you don't. The exhausting condition is an exception. Its effects gets worse if you have the condition and it's received again. Combat and damage example. In this scene, threats force a group of adventurers into a battle. This example demonstrates the turn-based flow of combat that gives each player a chance to detail what they do during the high-stakes moment of a fight. This is page 29. All right, so that's it for now. I will continue on page 30 next time. Thank you, like, subscribe, and see you later.